and welcome into NFL Total Access. I'm MJ Acosta-Ruiz. We are 99 days from Tom Brady returning to Foxborough for a Week 4 showdown between the Bucs and the Patriots. But before that, there are several free agents hoping to have a home. For the latest on free agent news around the league, here's our NFL insider, Ian Rappaport.
Well, MJ, usually when you get to June, there's very few big-time, big-name free agents available. That is not the case this year, mainly because teams just did not spend as much money in free agency as they usually do, so a lot of the really decorated veterans decided to wait. Here are a couple that we are keeping our eye on potentially signing before training camp begins or during training camp. One of those, Richard Sherman, the former Seattle All-Pro and most recently of the San Francisco 49ers. He is waiting to join a contender, potentially even waiting to into training camp. This is someone who is not going to want to play for the minimum, does want to play for a contender, and could actually end up waiting for an injury to end up getting the contract that he desires, as unfortunate for someone else as that may be. Certainly Sherman has not given up the idea of playing. Another big-time player, formerly of the Seattle Seahawks, KJ Wright, maybe the most decorated off-the-ball linebacker out there. Doesn't sound like a reunion in Seattle is likely. They want to play some of the young guys, but he does still want to play another person who wants to play for a contender and has waited and waited for the right amount of money, may end up needing, similar to Richard Sherman, an injury to create a hole for some contender that just has to pay a little more for a veteran that they want. And finally, Melvin Ingram, the standout pass rusher for the Los Angeles Chargers. He's actually had a couple visits, which the other guys have not had, at least not publicly. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, no deal yet, but certainly for a team looking for a top-notch pass rusher, there's not a lot available at this time, so certainly Melvin Ingram would fit the mold in that category, MJ.
All right, Ian, thank you. And here are some other names you might recognize who are also free agents. Lev Bell, Duke Johnson among them there. Justin Houston as well, looking for a team, as well as Malik Hooker. All right, let's bring in the crew for today. Cynthia Freeland, Curtis Conway, and Mark Ross. Hello, everybody. So now that we've seen the free agent landscape, highlighted there by Ian, what's a free agent signing you want to see happen? Curtis, why don't you start us off?
Well, MJ, I'm going to go with a guy that wasn't on that list, and that's Golden Tate. A guy that he's already put 11 seasons up under his belt. Now it's time to chase rings. Want to get a Super Bowl, and I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that's a good fit for him because with the addition of Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, you got two guys that the defense is going to be focused on. When you have Tate's a slot guy who can do all the dirty work underneath, not to mention they have the best running game in the National Football League. So I can see a guy like Golden Tate fitting in perfectly with the Tennessee Titans.
Well, I looked at that list, and I saw KJ Wright as a really big standout. And I think because he wants to go to a contender, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs would be a good fit. They have 2 second-round picks from last year and this year at the linebacker position, Nick Bolton most recently this season. And if you add that to Anthony Hitchens, he would just add a lot of versatility. And he talked about wanting to go to a contender. So for maybe not the highest price, because he's 31 years old, this could be a really nice fit.
Cynthia, that's an amazing fit because with Coach Defensive Coordinator Steve Spagnuolo in 2007, we had Antonio Pierce. So I know he loves having a veteran linebacker to be a leader for the defense. But I'm going to go with Richard Sherman to the Dallas Cowboys, reunited with Defensive Coordinator Dan Quinn as he had in Seattle. I think it will be a perfect fit. Dallas drafted a second-round corner this year in Kelvin Joseph. Last year, they drafted Trayvon Diggs from Alabama in the second round. He started most of the year last year. But there's nothing like having a veteran to teach young corners or at any position the nuances of the game and especially the system. And it reminds me a bit of 2017 with the Giants. I mentioned again when we had young corners, rookie Aaron Ross and third-year man Corey Webster, but we also had veterans Sam Madison and R.W. McQuarters who could teach those young guys. And players know they love their coaches, but there's nothing like having a vet in that room to help them in the game. So I think Richard Sherman to the Cowboys would be a perfect fit.
I love the blend of the rookies with the more veteran players because then you kind of get the youth and the burst alongside with the veteran leadership and telling them where to go. That has been a proven recipe for success, especially on defense, especially on the inside, and corners obviously can help with that as well.
You know, guys, Richard Sherman, part of that #1 pass defense in San Francisco just 2 seasons ago, en route to a Super Bowl. By the way, Sherman's former teammate, Joe Staley, he's joining the show a little later on. All right, thanks, everybody. And today, the NFL and the Black College Football Hall of Fame wrapped its 4th annual NFL QB Coaching Summit and its first ever Ozzie Newsome GM Forum. Its aim is to identify and develop the next black leaders in the league. So we're going to lean here on our resident former front office executive. Mark, this is a big step. What are your thoughts as a former GM on the inaugural Ozzie Newsome General Manager Forum there?
Well, MJ, this is definitely a cause that's near and dear to my heart. And, you know, the league office has really put a lot of time and invested a lot of money and energy in this, spearheaded by Executive Vice President Troy Vincent, to really have a forum and a conference to try to break down the barriers of mobility that have faced minority coaches and general managers. It really started out as the Bill Walsh Coaching Summit, QB Summit, and the General Manager Summit, the Ozzie Newsome General Manager Summit this year. And it's really threefold, where it's a way to bring exposure to these coaches. Number 2, it's really a networking event for not only the coaches, but also with owners. John Mara, Arthur Blank were part of this, and other head coaches. You know, Bill Belichick and Andy Reid were part of it, and also players. Patrick Mahomes was on a forum. You know, the networking aspect of it is tremendous. But also, it's a way to develop the skills of an already talented and skilled talent pool. I think a lot of times when they talk about development, it's like there are no talent in the minority ranks. There's plenty of talent, but it's just honing their skills, and it needs to be exposed. And it's really putting the owners, making them aware and accountable to say, you know, we can't hide behind, well, we don't know they're out there, or we don't think they're qualified enough. This conference, this forum has really been a way to bring all that exposure to light, to say, look, here we are. We deserve a chance. We've been waiting a long time, and let's go.
Something that's not just needed, but that has been spoken about so much, especially over the last few years. Mark, if I can ask, what is your hope now that all of these people have been put in the same room, if you will, after this forum?
Well, MJ, just keep progressing. Yeah, I think this year on the general manager side, we saw some hires, and everybody was kind of happy with the Brad Holmes of the world getting hired. But on the head coaching side, I think there was a little bit of disappointment with Eric Bieniemy not getting hired this year, and not as many head coaches hired. But just each year to keep trying to make progress, take steps forward, bring the exposure, and kind of just break down the excuses, so that at a certain point it can just get down to who is the best, most qualified candidate, and that the minority candidates do not continue to get overlooked. And I think each year we have to take steps, and it's been a long time till then. We've been patient. I know the coaches have been patient, so just keep making progress, MJ.
Speak on it, Mark. Thank you. All right, this year's crop of rookie wide receivers figures to put up some pretty impressive numbers, but which one of these wideouts will be the most productive in